Okay, welcome to our new episode in the OTW podcast. Today we're going to be talking and speaking English, first of all. And we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic for anyone who is either teaching or learning English or maybe both. That is false friends or false cognates. I guess that's a better way to say it. And today I am with our good colleague, my good friend, Nay. Nay is a teacher at OTW since 2018, 2019, I guess. It's been a while. It seems like it's longer because we've been working together in a very, very healthy and cool professional relationship, which has extended to the personal side of it. And here we are. Man, welcome to the first podcast. You're participating here, and I hope it's not the last.
Okay, thank you for inviting me. It's a good.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Talking to you. It has a long time that we don't talk.
Yes.
We have no conversation.
Exactly. One thing I forgot to mention. We're both fluent in English, right? Let's try because one of the reasons I believe some people will be listening to this conversation is to practice, English. Some of them will be advanced level, so absolute no problem or almost no problem with anything. But I would say that there is a considerable amount of intermediate level students or learners, if you will, listening to this podcast now. So let's try for both of us, let's try to take it easy here and there with some, depending on the slang words, don't speak so fast, like to cool down. So they
don't use so many connected speech.
Yeah, so our audience has the best experience possible.
Yeah, okay.
Nate, again, thank you so much, man. Tell us a little bit about your biography, the quick one. You have an extended one, so don't take long. But just so the audience, so the people listening to us right now will get to know you a little bit better.
Okay, nice. So I've been teaching English since 2008, I've learned English. I managed to learn English basically by myself, but I have worked at the time with a lot of Americans, so I've been to US, and since 2008, I started to teach English, and I've been doing it for all this time. I also have a major in Portuguese and English, which is a good thing because I can use, as a background. I like to speak English. I like to teach, and this is a kind of why do I teach English? I teach English because I love the language and also I love to teach. So kind of join both things together, and it's been working very well for me. So that's why I like English and I like the language. So that's why I teach English.
And you're also a big language lover, just like myself, I would say. But you go beyond. You have studied, beside many of the languages I have studied myself, you have also studied and mastered, so to say, the hand sign languages, right? Is that the correct way you call it in English, the hand sign language? The Brazilian hand sign language.
I refer to that as Brazilian Sign Language because we have American Sign Language, ACL is a different one, Mm-hmm. And I learned, Brazilian Sign Language is a specific language because usually people they ask, okay, is that the same as in Brazil as in US and everywhere? No, it's not. Brazilian is a specific one. Is based mostly, I could say to you, is basically mostly in the French Sign Language, because they use a lot of the origin of the Brazilian Sign Language is a French Sign Language. So that's why we have a lot of signs that were based on the French Sign Language. As an example, if you have two people, French deaf one and a Brazilian one, so they can communicate because the base is the same.
Yeah.
especially the basics they can do. They can communicate.
Cool, very nice, man. And speaking of communication, let's just go straight to today's topic, that is false friend. And hold your horses. We're not talking about the bad friends you have, those or that one with whom your girlfriend cheated on you. That's not a false friend. It's a horrible friend.
Yeah, it is.
Son of a gun. Anyways, we're talking about what also could be called false cognate. That are basically, or would you care to explain to our audience what are false friends?
It's the same as false cognates, like you said, It's very common in English language, especially if we're talking about people that study English. If the student is a Brazilian one, And as far as I can see, I could say that false friends, they are, in some cases, they are our true enemies in the learning process. Many times when you're studying English, you're gonna face a lot of problems because you have very words that are similar, English words that are similar to Portuguese. Why? Because even though English comes from a different background, Anglo and Saxon stuff, the Latin language was part of the English language. And, because of the Romans and stuff. So that's why we have a lot of similar words, especially when you're talking about the spelling. The spelling is almost the same. And sometimes, I have a lot of different students, and they have problems in understand that when you see that word, looks like a Brazilian word, but the meaning is totally different. One thing I can use it as an example, the word parents. We have a similar word in Portuguese.
I have to correct my advanced level students all the time.
Yeah, the same happens to me.
Parents.
So
parents, not parente.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like this. You need to work. I work in a line with that, So I put parents, relatives, then relatives related to,
Yeah.
So all of them, they have different meanings. But in Portuguese, when regarding to Portuguese, they are totally different, And sometimes we have some students that they need correction exactly because of that. They are using the wrong word in the wrong manner, in the wrong context, I should say.
Yeah, not to mention some words, because in this sense, I like the example you're bringing here, the word parent, which might be understood and will certainly be understood at the first time by a Brazilian who's studying or learning English as parente. But parente in English is relative, right?
Relative.
There's some. This is not so far away, I would say. Of course, it's wrong, right? Totally. You don't. If you say parents, you meaning your relatives, probably the person you're talking to will have a problem understanding, precisely what you're trying to say. But on the other hand, I would say that it might even cause you some problems, as you said, right? I believe that's the reason why you say that it is the enemy of the language.
Yeah, it is. It is totally, definitely. It is the enemy. Because, as an example, I was talking to a student, and I can't remember exactly what was the subject that we were talking about, but yeah, he had to say something to me about people from his kin that was living in another place, And he said, okay, all my parents, they live in another city. I can't remember exactly what was the city. But one thing that, caught my attention and kind of, I was wondering about that. He's talking about I asked him, how many parents do you have?
Yeah. Were you adopted by a big family? I don't know.
Yeah. The idea was totally different. What was totally out of context, And I had to explain to him and to the other students in the same group what's the difference, what the word that you can use,
yeah,
kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but take some words, for example, like actually, which does not mean atualmente, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I never forget there was this big billboard, which is another kind of a false friend. We're gonna get there, but anyways,
yeah, because people use outdoors.
Outdoors, yeah.
Outdoors is another thing.
Yeah, but there was this gigantic billboard in London when I was living there 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I never forget that the bus line, the bus trajectory I would do from work to my house, there was this big billboard. I don't even know why was it, but there was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. There's a T-Rex, just the head here, and then it was written on it, actual size. And then at first I was still learning English. I'm still learning English, but I was even more needy of learning English back in the days. And I was like, oh, actual size, like what is this joke about? What is this about? Like that are they trying to say that if the Tyrannosaurus Rex would be alive today, it would be this size? Because I was like thinking like the modern, like today's size, right? Because actual doesn't mean atual, right? But but actually it means in reality, right? When we say na verdade, right? So actual size is the real size of it, right? So this is one word that might, get you into trouble, I would say. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
and I've heard a lot of people, listen to some students, they make mistakes like those.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any specific word of advice you use to give your students, especially the ones getting to pre-intermediate, intermediate level, as far as false friends are concerned?
I would give them this word of advice. Look, even though we have a lot of false friends in English, we also have easily you can find sources where you can research, and try to understand what is the real meaning. No, you can use the internet. You can, as an example, when I have problems like this, sometimes I just show to my students English as an example, so you can see the people, especially native speakers, using the word that is considered to be a false friend. I know it is a false friend, but they are using it in a different way, right? So what I do, I show them, okay, you can look for those words in English, and here you can listen and see people speaking, listen to them using that word in a specific context, the right context. So what you could do, try to learn phrases in which you can use that word. So that's one way that you cannot forget that anymore. You wouldn't forget.
Yeah, the repetition is always key to learning, right? Especially when it comes to a false friend, because
method.
Yeah,
right?
And
it's a method that is still usable.
Yeah, no, but my point is, you have to repeat even more depending on the. I have a student. I would say he's B2 today. He's my student. It's been a while, and I still have to correct his on the word perhaps. I don't know why he put it in his head, and I make fun of him. That's a way of I found that it's been working. I would say these kinds of mistake have been lowering since the past months when I started making fun of it. But of course, respectfully, suggesting anyone should joke their students, especially those who are more. Especially those who don't like it, or those you don't have much, experience with. I would say. I wouldn't even say like you're friends with. By a chance, I have a very good relationship with this guy. I make fun of him sometimes. He makes fun of me, and it's good. It's a way we have found. It's a natural development of our classes, which are mostly focused on conversation. So he has put in his head, that the word perhaps which, if you don't know, it means, what is the other word for perhaps in English? I don't want to say Portuguese. Maybe, yeah, of course, maybe. Perhaps like maybe. Exactly, right? Basically the same meaning. He put in his head, don't ask me why, not my fault, I would say, that perhaps means persevere. So he's in the middle of sentence. He was like, I was doing this and I didn't perhaps. Sometimes he even like say, he conjugates properly, right? He perhaps. He conjugates properly, I would say.
Conjugated as a verb.
Yeah.
As a verb.
And I have to correct him, like realize, perhaps.
Maybe he had, I don't know, but probably.
Because of her, perhaps.
There is a possibility that he had, the first contact that he had with this word could be something like that. Mm-hmm. Because you can say, I was trying to do something, but perhaps then you need to use another word.
Possibly, there's a chance.
But perhaps then you need to use a verb. Maybe it's just confusing thing that it is in his head. I was watching a video on YouTube. Mm-hmm. It was a teacher. Mm-hmm. He's an English. I don't know if he's American, mm-hmm. but he teaches English in Malaysia and those places in Asia. Okay, mm-hmm. And one of the things that he was talking about is why he doesn't correct his students. Mm-hmm. He preferred to show them examples, and make them train those examples on how to use the word instead of keeping correcting. Why? Because when you correct someone, that's what he says, and I'm trying to kind of follow the same pattern. What he says is that when you correct, it doesn't go to his mind.
Yeah.
Because
it's true.
Like 5 minutes later, when he needs to speak again the same word, he's going to put this word in the same, in the wrong picture again. So he's going to picture the same word in the wrong place. So that's why it's not kind of useful to keep correcting these students, because they are going to forget. So the best way is to show them examples. Okay, see this, and reinforce. Mm-hmm. See this, and then reinforce again, until they kind of internalize that. Yeah, that's
the word gets stick to their brain.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you need to do. I don't know. I'm not here to teach you how to teach.
No, sure, absolutely. No, not a problem.
I'm just sharing an experience that
not a problem at all. Teaching is an art, I would say. Like, and people are different. I totally agree with you on it. I totally agree with you. With you and this guy, this Australian guy. But in this case, I have kind of a open an exception. Because I realized that he wasn't working, ignoring, quote unquote. Of course, not gonna. I would just wait until he would finish the sentence, and then don't forget that the word. There are exceptions for every rule. There are exceptions, right? That's what they say, and it's true. But I agree with you. That's true. Most of the times, 99% of the times, you don't interrupt your student. Especially if they're insecure somehow, because it seems like sometimes it's not even big deal. Sometimes he want instead of he wants. It's not a big deal. But then the students, if he's insecure or she's insecure, they're gonna go like, "Oh my God, I suck," and it's not true.
Exactly. I just remembered something when you started talking about this. You said something about, but I just remember one thing that happens a lot. Is many students, they confuse, as an example, intend and pretend.
Yeah.
So many times you listen to your students say, I pretend to be the manager in the future. Okay, so I said, are you a dog or something? Just kidding,
Yeah.
Like, are you a dog? Pretend that you're dad or something. Yeah. Just try to, to kind of take away, to make them focus on something else. That's the case. And then explain, okay, in this case, you should be using the verb to intend. Okay, I intend to be a manager in the future.
Yeah. Or maybe, or sometimes even changing words. Like you could say, I plan to be, I plan.
Yeah.
When I see, this is my strategy. In French, strategy. In Spanish, estrategia. Only Brazilians who have seen Tropa de Elite understood this joke. But anyways. So it
doesn't make sense.
It's a strategy. It doesn't make sense for gringos.
For me, it doesn't make sense at all because I never watched this.
You never saw that? Oh my god! It's
a
cool movie. It's a cool. The first one. I never saw the second one though. But anyways, so it's a strategy of mine. Sometimes like when I see that the student is making that mistake for the false friend, I get a synonym, another word that can For example, this is another thing I do with the student I mentioned. Say maybe,
Instead of perhaps.
Yeah, because maybe because it's the other way around. He's using perhaps, trying to say realize, and not trying to say maybe. But if he starts saying maybe instead of perhaps, when it's really perhaps you could this problem could be solved. Anyways, it's a paradox, I would say.
One thing that I do as an example, when people they make mistake trying to use the word actual or actually in the wrong context, what I do, I teach them or I ask them to use different words like currently or ultimately, ultimately. So words that is a perfect substitute for the word that we have in Portuguese, because I most of the time I teach Brazilian people, so I know exactly what they want to say in English.
Yeah.
They are just not going the right way. So I need to show them the right path. Okay, so this is the way that you need to go.
Yeah. How about the king of false friends? I don't know if you agree to the definition of the word I will bring now. Push.
Oh man, push and pull.
Push. I never had any problem with pull, because it might be a false friend for jumping in Portuguese, right? For jumping.
Yeah.
But push is a motherfucker, man. Push is because not only because the way you pronounce it, pronounce it, right?
Sounds like push in Portuguese,
Yeah.
It's the same. It's almost the same sound,
Yeah.
If we consider that we do not pronounce the word literally like it's written in Portuguese, it's the same pronunciation in English, except because the U has a kind of schwa sound, so that's why you say push instead of push.
Yeah.
In Portuguese it's more like this, Yeah. This is the king of, I don't know if it was a feminine word, I could say it's the queen of.
No, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a problem today with the word push, but I have to confess that if I'm in the middle of something physical, for example, to be more specific, carrying something heavy, helping someone moving from one place to other, for example, in which all people around me are speaking English, for example. It doesn't work for me in Brazil. And then someone says push, and I'm tired, I don't know if... I have to confess that I don't know for sure if in the middle, if I'm tired, and then someone says push, my mind won't hesitate for a second. As a Portuguese speaker, I don't know.
Okay.
I believe I would hesitate for a second. Oh my god, push,
Push or pull?
Yeah, exactly. I would, my mind would just kind of freak out for a second, or at least for 2 seconds.
I've seen. It wasn't a meme that by that time, but I remember that it was kind of an article that was written by Joe Soares about this word, and he was using another word like exit.
Exit. Yeah.
So, and he said, if you see that in a place where people speak English, exit, don't exit, But he said that in Portuguese.
If you, se você vir exit, não existe, saia.
Don't hesitate.
If it reads exit, that doesn't hesitate. Yeah, man. And I'm getting back to the billboard thing, the outdoor thing. That's the crazy one, right? The words that are from English origin
Yeah, but that's something that is very interesting. We use in Portuguese. We have borrowed a lot of English terms to Portuguese. You can say, you can see as an example. We work. If you teach people from IT, like I do. Most of my students are IT technicians and software engineers. It's kind of, and they have a lot of terms that they use that the origin is English.
Yeah.
But it's still the usage in Portuguese, even though they try to use that as English, or it has been incorporated in the Portuguese language, the meaning or the word that people are using outside Brazil, in the United States as an example, it's not the same. It's not the same word. As an example, like I said, outdoors, in the United States, billboard. Another word, as an example, feedback. Okay, so we use that a lot here in Brazil. And people say feedback,
Feedback,
It's kind of pronunciation. And the pronunciation is wrong, right? And if you say feedback in US, it doesn't mean the same. It's not answer. It's not that.
Not answer,
Another thing that happens now, home office.
Home office, I love that.
Home office is a place that you have in your house that you use as an office, right? But there in the United States, as an example, or in Britain, they use the word work remote, remote work, or work remotely. So that's the word that they are using outside Brazil. It's very. Sometimes it's weird when you have to explain those kind of stuff to students, because they kind of come to the class and they try to use the same words that they use in Portuguese, and that's not the same. It's not the same. So if you're talking to a foreigner, if you're talking to a native speaker, you are in risk of not being understood.
Yes, absolutely. Not to mention the more specific areas. Recently I was watching a podcast with a Brazilian female skateboarder called Letícia Buffoni. She's Brazilian. She's from São Paulo, and she lives in California for like 10-15 years. She's a professional skateboarder. And then she was talking to the guys about how different the name of the tricks, of skate tricks, because skateboarding comes from California, from US. So the tricks, I have done that myself for a while and still interested in that. It's something I like. I'm not good, never was good at it because I'm afraid of getting hurt. But anyways, it's another story. But all of the tricks are have their name based in English, right? Like ollie, kick flip, heel flip. And then she started talking about some tricks, which, by the way, I didn't recognize. I didn't get any of them by the way she was saying. But she said like in a second, like 10 tricks that were based in English, but in Brazil, guys would say one way, and in California, in the United States, guys would say another way for the very same trick, Some of them even crazy, like even not making sense, because let's just, since I brought it up, the name of the tricks usually, the name of the skateboarding tricks usually follow specific patterns. For example, that when someone jumps, okay, and then the skate flips, to the front, to the frontwards, I would say like this, It's a podcast, no one is seeing me, but you're seeing me through the camera now. When it's called a heel flip, because you use your heel, to make it flip. But it's crazy because you don't use your heel. You use the tip of you use your toes to get it to flip, because you do like that with your foot,
Got it.
And there's the kick flip, in which you use again the toes, but your foot is positioned more to the side of the inwards, towards yourself, I would say. So the skate flips like that, like towards yourself, and the opposite. The opposite is heel flip. The towards yourself is kick flip, right? And this is a good example because in neither of them you use the heel, you use your heels to do the trick. Use the tip of your feet, you know. But then she was bringing up some other tricks, and the guys in the podcast. It's a Californian podcast. They were astonished. They were like, "No way." I didn't know that. You know, not to mention many other specific areas in which, you know, the terms have been changed. You know, and then there's this you know, hole in the middle of this big gap, gigantic gap in the middle of the two Englishes. I would say, like the Brazilian English, you know, in terms of specific words, and then the original. Guys.
So sometimes I wonder where those words come, you know, and to be incorporated in Portuguese, you know. IT I can understand, because basically what I see is most of the technology. Okay, but you know, it depends on the country that produces technology, and you know that Asian countries, they are producing technology all the time, you know, and maybe they import some of those words there, and when they export the stuff that they produce in there, you know, it happens the same. So they export the words as well. You know, maybe that can be an explanation for the IT terms that we use, you know, that people are using today. Maybe it's an explanation for that. You know? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was watching a podcast, and there was a lady. She was talking about English. She's a native speaker, and she was talking and about that, and she said something like this. You know, English is not a language that belongs, you know, to native speakers, because only 5% of the people that speaks English over the world are natives, you know. Most of the people, so like the rest, you know, non-natives. Like we are, you know.
No, I would say that to any language, you know. A language is nobody's, you know. For example, our first language, both of us, it's Portuguese. But could we say that Portuguese language belongs to us? You know, it doesn't.
No,
you know?
It doesn't.
Of course, we have some authority to talk about it as native speakers. That's right. That's good. That's healthy, you know. But that's an interesting point of view. You know, we're walking to the end of this conversation. It's a very interesting one. I want to bring you back here. I want to invite you back in advance to talk about phrasal verbs. You know, it's equally challenging. Not only teaching, but learning, you know, and it's a way to differentiate native speakers to non-native speakers, I would say.
Exactly. And something that I have been bringing to my classes is this, you know. So I talk to my students about things like those. What makes the difference if you are speaking like a native? Because you can reach what they call native speak like level, you know? So even though I know we're not native speakers, but we can reach to this level. But what can we do? And a lot of things makes a lot of difference. As an example, phrasal verbs. The usage of phrasal verbs is one of the things. And I don't know how do you study or how do you teach phrasal verbs, but I guess the way that I do is a little bit different, you know? Because what I do, I like to collect them into clusters. Because, you know, phrasal verbs is a verb that the original meaning is changed by preposition or an adverb, right? Or both, or two prepositions, it doesn't matter. Okay. So I prefer to study them and teach them to my students, that I have, the class that I hold, by cluster. Like, for instance, up phrasal verb, at phrasal verbs, in phrasal verbs, kind of stuff like that. That's the way I work with that, you know. I don't know if you do the same.
I can already tell that's going to be a very interesting conversation when the next podcast we're recording together about phrasal verbs. My last word of advice here for people, I would like, it wasn't even on script, but I just wrote it down as you were speaking. I don't know if you probably do the same. I love paying attention to foreigners when they're speaking Portuguese. Most of the times we have foreigners around us whose original language is Spanish. But even though for all the languages I study, I have some knowledge. Spanish is one of them. I love paying attention to the way they speak Portuguese, because sometimes it reveals, a native, I wouldn't say mindset, but a native way of thinking or way of constructing the words. Sometimes
I believe in something that people say. I don't know if it's a real research, if it's true, if it was proved scientifically, but there are people saying that when you speak different language, your personality changes as well. It's not just the language, but some themes, characteristics, and stuff, from your personality is not the same.
Yeah, that's totally true, man. I can testify that as a speaker of other languages, and it's you have to develop a character. I believe I change my character. We don't change, inside. Like you're an honest person as a Portuguese speaker, and then you become a dishonest person. That's not this.
No. It's not that. It's not that
my
way.
Humor, my sarcasm, the way it's hard to just
even though, because you need to learn how to make jokes in another language, because some of it was a big challenge, it used to be a big deal for me to understand jokes, American jokes, and I had to study them until I could understand. Sometimes there are some cultural traits, background and stuff that we need to understand first so that you can understand. And once you got into this, it's you see that the way that if you want to say a joke in English, it must be different, from saying I'm not a good joker, at all. But when I try, I need to figure out a different way.
The timing, right?
People can understand.
The secret of jokes, the jokes are the timing. The way you put it. Men, thank you so much. I much appreciated this conversation. And again, the invitation is open for the next episode. Maybe not the next episode, but the next episode with you, with Teacher Nate here, to talk about phrasal verbs.
Just let me know, okay?
Thanks a lot,
I'll be available. I'm working a lot, but
I know. Thanks a lot.
God.
Thanks. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you in the next episode. Bye.